Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Well, ever have the intention of doing one thing and you do something else instead? Well, that's what's going to happen today. I had the intention of doing a different video on a different topic. However, I posted a video a few days ago, I guess, on one of the first thing that attracts me to role-playing games when I'm looking at new stuff, and that would be the premise. And so I got a lot of comments both on Facebook and on the video comment itself and whatnot, and actually some video responses. So it was great. So I kind of wanted to clarify a little bit more about what I meant by the premise, and so talk about things like premise and settings, and I guess what I'll call follow through, maybe situation and execution, and maybe change my definition of execution from the last video. But anyhow, people like Dynamic Worlds just kind of asked me for some clarification between like premise and setting, like what exactly did I mean in this particular case. Doomguard actually had some great comments on Facebook. Caius of Glantry, Caius Wallen made a great video. And let's see, I think Joseph Morgan Battle actually asked me some questions, or made some comments as well about the premise and the actual follow through or execution, which I agree with everything everybody said. It was great. So I just want to kind of clarify for me, like I'll take the game that I'm looking at right now. As I'm doing other stuff, but I'm looking at this game called Eclipse Phase. I don't have a hard copy of it. I don't know if I'm going to buy a hard copy of it, but the premise sounded interesting, and I won't go into all the premise, but part of it, the premise of things that I've been thinking about for a long time. A lot they kind of shoehorn a lot of stuff from a lot of different sci-fi stories in there, but these are concepts that I've toyed around with or just thought about for decades when it comes right down to it, which is one of the reasons that it kind of grabbed me instantly. And part of it is the idea that there's humanity has evolved to the point where we're transhumanity, so where our ego is this electronic thing, and you can download it into other bodies or make backup copies or whatnot, and then your body is a morph and it's disposable. You can get a new one. So if you die, you can be re-uploaded, all that kind of stuff. Then you can also do something in there called forking, where you can make a copy of yourself and live two independent lives. You can merge back together, or just you can make multiple forks of yourself, be an entire organization. These are things that I thought about. So that was a premise that grabbed me. And there's other things going on in terms of kind of like a little Terminator scenario, where the AIs have kind of rebelled and humanity is now kind of reeling after that. And so that's the premise. There's a little bit more to it. Then there's the setting. And the setting is like everything about this whole game, which is massive in terms of the solar system, where all the different factions are. Lots and lots of information about the aliens, because there's also like an alien race that we have to deal with, and little jump gates, and about the AIs, and it's a big book. There's a lot of setting, so that would be more like setting. And for me at that point, I was calling it execution in terms of the game, because I think of premise and execution in terms of a story, like a book. Like I gave that example about H.P. Lovecraft. Great premise. His execution, writing the stories, they're enjoyable, but he's kind of amateurish writer when it comes right down to it. But I guess I'll call it like follow through, and the follow through would be more like, okay, this is a great premise, it's hooking me in. Now I'm going to look at the entire product. I'm going to look at the setting. I'm going to look at the layout. I'm going to look at the mechanics and the system. So how do they get this whole premise to work? And I think that's more of like what Joseph was talking about is, after you get hooked in by this premise, okay, how do they do? And that would be what I was calling execution before, but I guess I'll call it follow through. So that's how the RPG designer or designers, what does the end product look like? Are you satisfied with it? Are you digging the setting? You're digging the way the premise actually works in here? Are you digging the way it works mechanically? The system. And I'll make another video about Eclipse Phase and talk about what I liked, because I discovered things I liked and things I didn't like. That's part of the follow through. And then I guess I'd call a little bit looking at what Dynamic Worlds, if I can stop stuttering, was talking about, is I think I'll shoehorn in something else called scenario. And that's a scenario, like we were talking more about I think he was using the example that I gave from the Tetsubo 57 video about something similar, where you're a failed implant. You're supposed to get this full upload from where you were, right at your death, but instead it's from your original upload 200 years ago, and you have no idea what's going on. You're scared to death because people are shooting at you. You have no clue. Last thing you remember, you're like 18 years old. And now you're some big boss of something, and you have no idea why the world is topsy-turvy. That is kind of like a scenario. I guess you could call it a premise as well, but that's more of like for a one-shot or for a campaign. That is a premise, but that's more of a premise within an RPG itself, which I think is also cool. Like that is also another thing that just hooks me. If somebody's got kind of good scenario or good internal premise, internal to the game, right on. But that's not necessarily for me what what's going to attract me to a role-playing game itself. If somebody's running one and say, here's my internal premise or my scenario, that may hook me, and that may be enough. I might be, willing to do that. And the final thing, though, talk about is execution, because I agreed with what everybody said. Caius mentioned this, and did a really great job explaining it. It doesn't matter how great the game is. It doesn't matter how great the mechanic is. It doesn't matter how great the premise is, the setting, all that kind of stuff. It's the people that matter. It's the actual execution at the gaming table. It's the game master. It's you. It's the other players. It's where the rubber meets the road. That's when the game gets really good or not so good. And, to be honest with you, we can take a so-so premise and kind of a clunky system, and not so great fall through, a kind of hard to read book and all that kind of stuff, and make it sing and make it a fantastic game, fantastic one-shot, fantastic campaign with the right people, because we're dynamic, we're engaged, we're right there, firing all cylinders, we polite, whatever it is. We're doing it, and that's what it's role playing, where it's people interacting with each other. That's the execution. Or we can take the best premise in the world, the best written book, the best, follow through, I guess you'd call it, best setting, and it can be terrible with the wrong group of people that just, aren't very good, aren't very nice, aren't really suited for each other. And you can go on and on with a list of that. So, at the end of the day, yes, the people at the table or in the hangout, however you're doing, in the play by email, that's the important part of the execution. So all those things are really kind of crucial for the game experience. So next video I'll talk more about like the mechanic or the system and what attracts me to role-playing games as I'm looking at them, because that's a whole other kettle of fish. Have a good one.